Welcome back to Super Sentai Review, episode number 78. This is reviewing the last four episodes of Liveman, episodes 46 to 49. Yes, the best way you can describe these episodes is each episode we actually have one of the villains die. Start episode 46, where Ashura has his last stand in this episode. Yep, where he is reverted back to his original look back in episode 11. That's what happened at the end of the episode. Here we kind of continue that there, where he is basically kind of back to the way he was before. He lost his intelligence that he gained. Excuse me, and he was just a genius. The bias created. Well, his intelligence is something he created. So he works with a little bit with the Liveman, and like past let's just say past antagonistic, it's basically buried. Yes. Though he does sacrifice himself in order to take out one of the monsters of the episode. How? Suicide Bomber. Yep, he chops some dynamite to his waist and blows up the monster for the episode. And that's the last see of him. The very next episode, 47, is the last appearance of two characters. Yep, two characters killed off in this episode. Mazina is like getting very close to that 1,000 point thing, and after she decides to attack the Liveman, she gets 1,000 points. Well, she attacks him with basically a nightmare wave. Yep. So I guess Bias is like, okay, we have Gyros. A lot of the time we see him, he's sharpening his knife. And a lot of the time you're thinking, why is he sharpening a knife for? And you're like, oh, that's the reason why. Because he was going to use a knife to remove Dr. Mediza's brain. Yep, he was going to do that. And when, of course, Go, who actually comes back in this episode, he actually came back in the previous episode. Yeah, he comes back in 46 and 47, and that's it for him. I'll get to the reason why for that. So Mazina basically is, she is told about what the thing is, a little brain room. And in terms of those brains, or actually did a little research, Go reveals they're missing geniuses over the course of decades who work with Bias and have their brains turn this particular brains in the jar thing. Yep. As to what the gender of these particular geniuses are, that is not revealed to the final episode, which is going to be kind of surprising. So, when she finds out about the whole thing with the brain thing, she's like, screw this. Opens up part of her shirt and presses a button and turns her brain into a machine. Then she gets shot by a Goosh, the robot, and then she jumps off a cliff and explodes. Go himself is basically shot by bullets by Goosh, and that's the last to see of him. Go dies. By the way, do Liveman actually inform his mother about his murder? No. Because her only appearance was back in episode 22. Yes. And then you have the very next episode, 47. Kip realized, oh, I know how to get 1,000 point brain. So he basically thinks he's fled from Vault. So then Liveman save him, and then he leaves a bunch of wires. And then he achieves the 1,000 point brain. And he voluntarily gives his brain over to Bias, despite the fact that he knows exactly what the thing is. And so Goosh takes this big jar, puts it on his head, and sort of removes his brain, despite the fact that Kemp's body's able to move without the brain, no problem, and retain all his memories. All memories and knowledge, and it evolves into the final Fear Beast form. And he pretty much takes up the Liveman. He holds him hostage. And Yusuke does something quite interesting. He breaks off, and of course, he slips onto the spaceship of Goose, and he does something like normally this is safe for the final episode. But he goes to the villain's base in the Pentland episode. Not only goes to their base, he also goes inside their strategy room. You know, the throne room Bias likes to use. Yes, which have been frequently appearing since episode 1. And he's the only one who goes in here. He goes in here unmorphed. Which, that's a bit unusual because the previous Sentai I've seen, Generally put, the strategy room is usually infiltrated by the Rangers, who actually are morphed. And now, Jock, they have two. In Battlefield J, Denzi Man, and Sun Vulcan, we had the entire team infiltrate the place. And by the way, Colin is actually decided to fly out with the live boxer in order to take the Fear Beast. And then one of the most shocking things happen. Okay, so Bias gets the Camp's brain in place. And then he activates the Ginga brainwave. Which, here's the thing. Yusuke is the only completely affected by it because he was on the space station at that point. And by the way, the entire Vault organization, by the way, he also takes time to basically kill what's left of the jammers. And he does some more basically killing off in the next episode. But yeah, he just storms the station and we're like, where's Bias? Where's Bias? Like, oh, this is where you are. And he's like, are you Great Professor Bias? And Bias just fires lightning bolt at him. And then him in his morph form does something I never see our Red Ranger do. He takes his sword and stabs the main villain in the freaking gut, wounding him. I'm like, has anyone ever heard of a Red Ranger who stabs the main villain in the freaking belly? As far as I can tell, this has never happened before. Yes, they've had fights where the Red Ranger does fight the main villain, but that's the point where he stabs him. And he's a human villain. He stabs him in the freaking gut, and then he's able to knock out the Ginga brainwave, which, by the way, he brainwashed the other four linemen who actually were on Earth to pick up Colin to, get this, throw her off a cliff. Luckily enough, Yusuke was able to knock out the brainwave just in time. And he sees Bias' true form. This old, decayed man. And then Bias uses Kemp's brain to de-age himself to the form of a child, known as Young King Bias. And then Yusuke is captured. Then he's strapped to a cross. No, I'm not kidding about that. Yusuke is strapped to a freaking cross. Thank God they put anything on his head. They just strap him to a cross. It just happened to sit up in Bias' throne room. And here's something Bias, I've never heard a villain do this with their main base that I've seen as a Super Sentai. He takes his base, which had been floating around the planet since episode 1, and the final episode, which by the way, he does create one more monster, the electric monster, was the final episode. Which, why not? Though a lot of the time, whenever they come, well, I've seen these Super Sentai, a lot of the time the final monster usually is the boss. Not usually like, oh, let's have the main villain summon their monster just because. So he brings the brain base on there, which by the way, the linemen, it's the first time we've seen the thing. They surprisingly don't go inside of the damn thing. Which I'm thinking, that's interesting. You would think they would, take a look around the place. Nope. Just Yusuke. He apparently is the only one allowed inside the place, which I thought was kind of dumb for Liveman to do. Because we had another Super Sentai I watched where the entire team get a chance to go inside the base and see the strategy room. Go to the very room where the villains have been using the entire time since episode 1. And Yusuke is the only one who goes to this room? I think it's quite dumb. And of course, Bias himself basically is not killed by the Rangers. He's killed later. And while the Rangers battle the electric monster, Yusuke chases after Bias, who is being dragged around by Goose. And he says, Goose, I challenge you to a battle. And Goose is like, bring it on, man. And they fight, and damn, this is actually a pretty good fight. It ends with the robot losing his arm. And, by the way, in episode 46, not 46, I think it was like 43, that was the first time they actually summoned, this was actually also the so he figured out 49 because he does episode 2, let's have him do the Ginga Phantom one more time. And also I think episode 40 was the first time the Rangers were nowhere nearby when he fired the Ginga Phantom. It's not just the first one where he actually does it one-handed, because, he lost one arm. Now, Bias himself surprisingly does not scold him for losing to Liveman. He probably was dying. He probably thought, though, he's probably, if I can tell, he's not in his right mind. So basically, he doesn't have the right to order him to, be scolding him for losing to Liveman. Because I got to admit, that was a really damn good one-on-one battle. And then they managed to get back the brain base, which probably Bias able to revert back to his old man form at this point. So he has to start the main engine, and they try to do it because the brain base crashes. Because here's the thing, he had been using attacking a city, and then the super live robo smashes the damn thing, and causing the crash, and they say and everyone's like, oh, so that's the brain base, this space station, okay. So then of course, because super live robo just happened nearby, they don't have to call it, which one of two times this actually happened, where they just happened to be nearby the live robot. They didn't have to call it when they're long far away. They had to call for it, which was the second last in this whole thing. So they hop a Megazord, destroy the monster, and then Bias activates the engines, and then the brain base explodes. It starts blowing up, killing him and his robot bodyguard. And then we have it where, this other was really weird, Goosh's head, the robot head, basically blows out and basically has a clip show. A lot of stuff has happened over the course of this entire run. Several things happening. And then he just sinks to the sand. That's the last to see of him. Bias is dead. And they all walk off, basically accomplish their mission. What the heck happened to these people? What are they going to do? Because they pretty much take care of Vault. Aside from the fact we have a clip show, we have a montage of clips we had various stuff happen over the course of the damn thing. Did we reveal the final fates? What are they gonna do? No. There's nothing. Just ends. That's another thing I don't like about this. Yeah, it just abruptly ends. No goodbyes, just the end. And then we have a sneak preview for the next Super Sentai, which is Turbo Ranger, which I will get to that in the future. Don't worry about that one. Yes, I saw it. It looked pretty interesting, especially the first episode. I'm going to wait to get to that one. That won't be until for several of these ones. Yes. Now, if you're curious, though, what order is Turbo Ranger on? Because I just finished up Liveman. Okay, yeah. So that won't be until after I do Flashman. Yes. Not until I do Flashman. Excuse me. Not until after I do Flashman. That's when I'll do Turbo Ranger. Then 5-Man, Jetman, Conquer Ranger, and that point forward. Yep. But yeah, that is all of Liveman. Which the very next episode of this batch of 3 episodes, I'm doing 3 of them, by the way, I will reveal in the third one. I've actually done something quite interesting. I will reveal that when I get to it. So, the very next video of this, we'll be discussing my final thoughts on Liveman. Yep. But until you see you in the next video.